authors every day. I read. That's all I do. I read, and somehow I stumbled into doing this talk show. Started in 2008, and here we are in 2025, July 15th, 2025 to be exact. And I get to talk to authors and find out. There's something I want to know, what so many of our viewers want to know. How do you finish writing a book and get it published? So many of our viewers are just in that process. There's millions of people out there with books in process. Anyway, we're going to talk about this book. In fact, Sunflowers for Sarita. In fact, it's a series of books. This is book one of a series. And so, series of four. So, by the way, this author hasn't written just one book. She's gotten four published. How did she do that? Anyway, our guest is, let me see if I can find her. Where is... there she is, Dianne Miley. Welcome, Dianne.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Four books. Tell our viewers where you are.
I am just east of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Close to the East Coast. Yeah.
Way far from California. Well, we talk to authors from all over the world, so we get a lot from the Carolinas. I don't know why. There's a lot of creativity there, I guess. What would you say is the genre of your books?
They're Christian romantic suspense. So they're clean. They have, they don't have any graphic violence or anything like that, bad language, but they do have some suspense. They have one of the stories has a murder, another has a pretty violent stalker, and they have a kidnapper also.
It's real life stuff.
So they do have some scary stuff going on.
By the way, even though we rehearsed it and went over, I got them in the wrong order. This is book one, Lilacs for Laura. Am I correct?
Yes, Lilacs for Laura is book one.
Yeah. Now, should people read these in order?
It's fun to read them in order, but if there's one that particularly piques your interest, they're all self-standing as well. I mean, you can read just one of them and totally have the whole full story. Each of the books focuses on a different family member. It is kind of a family saga. They're all related to each other. So if you read one in the middle and then you want to go back, it'll just give you a little more background of what happened before that one did.
Did their family members, each person get named after a flower? No, not really. Laura, Lilacs for Laura, and Roses for Rachel. So are these sisters?
Laura and Rachel are sisters. Vanessa is in a relationship with their brother. And Sarita is Rachel's sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law, okay. Excellent.
Yeah, so they're all in the same big family.
Yeah, the covers are what struck me, and we're looking at those covers now. It just really pulls you in. Funny how you pick your books, right? I mean, how do you pick your next book? Well, the covers help. Hearing a little bit conversation with the author certainly helps, and things like that, reviews, all these things that you go through. Can you tell us anything about the stories? We don't want you to give anything away too much.
Okay, sure. Well, the first story, Lilacs for Laura. Laura is a florist. She lives in this little small town. It's a fictional small town in Ohio, which is where I grew up. And it's called Crystal Falls. And she has her family floral shop. And she meets the love of her life, and they start having a relationship, and then things start going terribly wrong. She has her brother-in-law, who is her sister Rachel's husband, is kind of harassing her, and she doesn't know what to do about it. She doesn't know what to say to her sister, if anything, and things, get worse and worse. And then one day he ends up in her backyard murdered.
Oh my God.
So she is the prime suspect, obviously, and so then her boyfriend Brett actually finds him in her backyard, and so that creates all kinds of tension in the romance and tension with her sister and the whole family. And so that's kind of how that story begins. And I won't ruin the story for you, but that's kind of what happens in that story. The second story is Roses for Rachel, and that is Rachel, the sister's story. So at the beginning of the story, she's a widow. She has two little girls that she's raising, and all the things that happen that she goes through. And she has a stalker. So that's kind of what she has to deal with.
Are they concurrent? Or are they or different?
They're consecutive. They're consecutive. So the first story happens first. The second story happens afterwards. But like I said, you can read them out of order because I was very careful not to give away what happens in the first story, in the later story, so that you can still be surprised.
Here's Violets for Vanessa. You want to say something about that one?
Well, Vanessa is kind of the girl from the wrong side of the creek. They don't have tracks, they have a creek. And she's just a poor girl. Her father's very abusive and an alcoholic. She's trying to get away from him. And she gets a job in town working at the tea shop that is right next door to the flower shop where Laura works. And she ends up meeting their brother Chad and starts a relationship with Chad. And her main focus throughout the book is just kind of getting away from her abusive father and what's going on with him.
Yeah. And then
and
Sunflowers.
he went dead too. Pardon me?
Sunflowers, Sarita. How does Sarita get involved in all this?
Okay, Sarita is the sister of the guy in the first story who ended up dead. The cheating husband. So Sarita is his sister. So she kind of has a really rough background, but she's a good person turning her life around. And at the beginning of her story, she finds out that her ex-boyfriend, who was in prison that she testified against, is getting out of prison. Okay. So she decides to hide out. She has a 3-year-old daughter. So to protect herself and her daughter, she hides out with one of her friends who has a beach house in the on the Isle of Palms in Charleston, South Carolina.
Is that a real place, by the way?
That's a real place,
like
yes.
That, yeah.
And so she hides out in Charleston and kind of takes the story to that location, which is kind of fun to have, the double location in the story.
That is fun. Now, one reason to read these in order and to get through all 4 is because you're coming out with a continuation?
I am, yeah. So I actually just this morning I finished the final edits on my next book, and it is the first book in a second series. And this series will take place in Charleston, South Carolina, and the hero in this book is Sarita's stepson. So it kind of has a little bit of a time gap in there, and then you find out all of the children from the first series are the main characters in my second series.
Amazing. Now,
I can't.
You've already started. The next book is in progress and moving along. Who could read these books? Can anybody read them? Is it okay for everyone?
Sure, they really are. I mean, they're clean. I mean, they're adult fiction, but even like young adults could read them because they're clean and, totally understandable. But they're written mostly they're a romance, so mostly women are interested in them. But I mean, if a man likes romance, some guys do. It's for everybody. I've had readers from like 17 years old to 80 years old that have enjoyed the stories.
Sometimes when I'm getting on an airplane, I grab a book and I'm on the plane flying, I realize this is a romance novel, and it's good, and then you have to read the next one in the series and the next one, so it's happened to me. So
yeah, and they do have the suspense element as well, which tends to draw in more male readers, than just the romance part. So it has the suspense and the romance both.
It sounds like my wife has all these sisters. I think when I order a book like this, I'm not going to order one. I'm going to order 5 or 6 copies, and everybody's going to get one because they all love to read the same book at the same time and talk about it. So it's a little hint. That's a hint to our viewers. Don't go click once and order. Order a stack of these things and pass them out. It's so much fun to do that.
Share the love.
By the way, Dianne, we have your web address, DianneMiley.com. What are we going to find there?
Well, I have a blog that I have there, and you can find the books there and a little bit more about the books. I'll have like a good explanation of each of the books, a little bit more about me if you're interested. And what else? I do have a newsletter that you can sign up. It's a monthly newsletter. I have giveaways. I have just more news about my writing and the books and all of that I share on the newsletter. Sometimes I have book reviews on there. And recipes, all kinds of fun stuff. The newsletter comes out once a month. It's just an email. So you can sign up for that. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you do get a free story. So I have a novella that I've written that you will receive for free when you sign up for the newsletter. So that's always fun.
That is
fun.
The
novella is a fun story too.
Yeah. Dianne Miley, we're running out of time, but I just want to give you a minute. Anything else you want to say about the books or anything in the world you want to talk about?
I do want to mention that they are Christian books, so they do have a faith element. And one of the things that I encourage in the stories and through my writing is that, bad things happen in life, and that the characters, the main characters, learn through the stories to trust in God and grow in their faith. And I want to encourage the readers also to, when bad things happen, trust in God, pray, and, turn to your faith, and that helps you get through. And God has a way of turning all of those ashes into beauty in the end.
That's nice.
So I always have a happy ending, and things always end up better than they were.
I mentioned that early in the interview, is that the things that happen in your book happen in real life, stalkers and murders and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Thank you, Dianne. I'm inspired by you now. So many books and more coming out. I hope you'll come back on the show again and again.
I would love to. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate your support of books and authors.
Thank you so much. I love books, and I love to talk to authors. So for our viewers, don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with another author right after this.
Thank you.